Foul demon, face the vengeance of the Moon Knight.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Tsunami Studios, and this is another Moonwatch video. That's right, the topic of Moon Knight continues on this channel, and in this video, we're doing one that I've been working on for a while. It's one I was like, I know at some point I'm going to talk about this, and I figured instead of waiting for the right time, which may never come, I would just do it. So basically, what this video is, I want to talk about a run on Moon Knight. Now, everyone's got their favorite runs. It's surprising how many good ones there are, honestly. Like, with a character who is so D-list for all his in conception, it's amazing how many good runs there are of the character. And you could talk to anybody who's a fan or is a casual reader of the character, be like, oh, you start here, you go here, you go here. I've done a video myself talking about like where to begin reading the character if you want to get into it before the show comes out. And I talked about this book on that show, and I said in there I wanted to go more extensively into that, which is what we're doing today. So, this book we're talking about is what I consider to be the most underrated run on Moon Knight out of every run that's come out. And there's been a lot of runs, but this one in particular, it's a 10-issue run. I want to focus on the first about 5 issues of the run because I think that's where the story really interested me and had this really captivating thing. So that, of course, is Vengeance of the Moon Knight, volume number 1. It came out in 2009. It ran 10 issues, like I said. It ended in 2010. This volume is called Shock and Awe. It's written by Greg Hurwitz, and basically, this is what I consider to be the most underrated Moon Knight story of all time. We're going to get into it in a little bit, but first off, I also want to add this to the caveat of this. When I first got into comic books and I was like, well, what characters do I want to enjoy? What characters do I think I will enjoy? I was really trying to find somebody that didn't have that audience that I've seen everywhere. That character was Moon Knight, of course. Like, I saw this book, I think it was like an Indigo store, which is what we have here in Canada. And basically, I was like, this book looks really interesting. It's like a guy in a white suit jumping off a motorcycle, and he's like shooting these guns. I'm like, this looks really different. And it's from Marvel. So this was my first introduction to the character of Moon Knight. This is the first Moon Knight story that I used my money to buy. I went out to the store, I saw this on the stand, I'm like, I want to read this, I got it, and knowing absolutely nothing about the character beforehand, I was just instantly hooked. My love of the character, everything I felt about him, it stems from my respect and admiration for the work that has been done in these 5 issues. And I really think this is a great introduction to the character. If you haven't seen anything else about it, I think there's something really cool here that this idea plays into, and we're going to get into it in a little bit, but Vengeance of the Moon Knight is a very interesting place to really start reading because it takes a lot of the stuff we saw in the previous run and deals with that and shows a different type of Mark Spector or Jake Lockley, as you see in this book, than what we've seen before. So, at this time in the Moon Knight kind of like history and in the stories, he faked his own death and he fled to New Mexico. The identity of Mark Spector is considered dead, same with the character of Black Spectre. It's kind of like an ending between those two, and that's where it left off. And it was kind of just like a fractured psyche of a Mark who is now in fear or in hatred, just kind of like, I'm done with this identity for Khonshu. I don't have any part of it. So then we have our break, we come back to this world, Moon Knight is back, we are trying to rebrand Moon Knight to be a larger character in the Marvel Universe. To me, this is a staple of like, we are putting him into not just like the, you know, Shadowland characters like on the streets of like your Power Man and Iron Fist and your Daredevils. We're trying to make Moon Knight a top tier character. The book sold okay, like the one before this, but it didn't have that oomph that we wanted. So now we're restarting. We're bringing Moon Knight back into prominence. And how do we do that? We do it in a way that I call the redemption of Mark Spector. Basically, these 5 issues in particular, this is the story that Moon Knight himself, the vigilante, the crazy man we've seen in years previous, is coming back to New York City, coming back to the world of Marvel pretty much, and is declaring to everyone in that universe, I am now a superhero. I am back. I have dealt with my demons. I have been through hell and back. I am here to tell you I am a superhero who is going to do right by the people of New York and by the Marvel Universe. Which is such a really interesting idea because we see Moon Knight in a lot of different interpretations. And nobody really goes for that, like, I'm going to do right. I am going to be not the complex vigilante that we all love and admire, but I'm going to straight up be the superhero. I'm going to use my resources to do the right thing, to prove that Moon Knight can be more than just what I made it and what Khonshu made it. And this also plays into one of the things I really enjoy about the Mark Spector and Khonshu relationship. And that is, in my opinion, now I think this could go up for anybody in a bunch of different ways. One of the things I really like, and in my opinion should be something that is a crucial element of the Moon Knight character, Khonshu should be a villain / an opposing force. I don't think we want the camaraderie between those two to be something we enjoy. Now, there could be times when the two of them work together because Khonshu needs the help of Mark or Mark needs the help of Khonshu. I like the idea more, it's like, this god is using me and trying to corrupt me to be something I don't want to be, and I'm constantly fighting myself and him against that idea. That is a strong, constant theme throughout the character that I really enjoy. I like the idea of a Khonshu manipulating Moon Knight to being his avatar and his creature for destruction. I like that a lot. I really, really like the idea that is presented in this book of like the Jiminy Cricket on your shoulder that you are constantly ignoring and trying to push aside. Like a big theme in this book is one of the reasons Mark was kind of a self-destructive character or a broken man to begin with in the Marvel Universe is because of Khonshu. Khonshu broke him. He saved his life and there was that debt of gratitude towards it, but Khonshu ultimately broke Mark Spector and forced him to become what he was. And now he doesn't want to be that thing that he was. He's going to be something new. He's going to make Moon Knight a force for good. And part of that is seeing how he is ignoring the voice of Khonshu in his head, which I really like that idea because we're not getting rid of Khonshu altogether. Khonshu is a looming figure in the entirety of this book. Like I said, the Jiminy Cricket who's either on his shoulder or in the backseat of his vehicle, just there like, you are trying to disobey me. You are going against your God, against the man who gave you life. You're practically going against your father. And you're just thinking there won't be consequences for this? You can try being the hero thing. Nobody is going to respect you or believe you in that regards. Like, you want to go straight? You can't go straight. You're a lunatic. They will always see you as a lunatic. And having that voice in your head be that thing telling you that you can't do this anymore, it's a very interesting idea. Something that is kind of explored in Moon Knight, but in this story, it's like, yeah, this guy is trying to be straight, but he knows it is going to be an uphill battle from the beginning, which is such a complex and intriguing concept for the character. We've seen the dark and brooding with him, we've seen the adventurer in him, but under all of that, there's this underlying idea that he is crazy. Well, this book is like, he's crazy, but he's trying not to be. The persona of Mark Spector doesn't exist. Mark Spector is not around in this book. It is Jake Lockley who's taking control, who's arguably the craziest of the personalities in later readings and other stories. But I love the idea that Mark's like, I gotta get a clear head, even if that means losing the man that made me crazy, which could be Mark Spector. I'm going to be Jake and get my life together. And we see how that works with the world around him, how he's reintroducing himself to his kind of like side characters and the people in his life that are in there. You see how he reacts to this idea with Frenchie being like, I guess this is you. And there's some really interesting stuff with Frenchie in this book too. I don't know if we'll get into it a lot, but Frenchie has a really great style in this book of being like the reminiscing on the past while realizing you need to embrace the future kind of thing, which I really like. He gets an interesting relationship with Crawley, who out of everybody in his supporting cast is kind of just like, all right, this is just a new crazy, so I'll support it. And I really like the relationship here between him and Marlene, because Marlene in this point in the story, she's just, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to have whatever the hell we're doing here. I just can't be a part of this. But she reluctantly just realizes that I guess he's trying to do good. It's not this idea, it's like, I don't think you'll manage. She's just like, do your thing, Jake. Like, if this is going to help you, go ahead and do it. And she's like, if you want to try to be the hero, be the hero. I think you can do it. But you and me, the world at large, we all know you are going to struggle with this so hard. Like, it's something you haven't been able to face before. And I really think this makes for a compelling kind of story in the Moon Knight lore, because we've seen a lot of this idea both before and after this, that it's a battle of Mark and himself. Well, that's still technically what's going on in this book, is Mark battling himself and his ideas with Khonshu. But this book at large too is like, the Marvel Universe is afraid of Moon Knight. They're like, this guy thinks he can go straight and be a hero? Let's show you why he can't. There's a lot of references to other things in the Marvel Universe at the time, like the Norman Osborn and Dark Avengers, which is a specific scene I want to get to involving that. And there's just some really interesting stuff there. So, because, like I said at the beginning of this, we are trying to introduce Moon Knight to the larger Marvel Universe, there are references to the larger Marvel Universe here. For example, in the second issue, Moon Knight has an encounter with the Sentry, who at this point was working with Norman Osborn's Avengers team, and I like this a lot. It's just like a conversation between these two characters who are both people. Both of these men have struggled with their identity and that voice in their head telling them, you can't do this. And I love just the way that this plays off, that Moon Knight's like, look at what happened to you. You got better. You were able to find yourself here. Even if it might not be the right thing, you are still showing that what I'm trying to do can be done. You are a walking example that we can change. And I love that idea because, yes, that is why I think this book is so smart. It's like, you had to use Sentry in that moment because he is essentially a Moon Knight-like character where you are so afraid of that thing in your head that has destroyed you before and how it can come back and affect you in these different and bold ways. He is essentially that kind of a voice in there, and I absolutely love it. What I love too is the relationship between Moon Knight and Spider-Man that is presented in this book, because it is just absolute brilliance. And I've said before, Spider-Man Peter Parker is a character I've never consistently read. I've never connected to that character the way I have others, but seeing the importance of having it be Spider-Man in this book really highlights something I love, because Spider-Man is essentially the figurehead of the Marvel Universe. You see him, you're like, that's quintessentially Marvel. And I love this idea that Peter's just like, you can try all you want to show that you can change. But you haven't. You won't. You will never be able to change. Like, there's something about you that is fundamentally broken that can never become what I am. It's quintessentially, it's just pretty much Peter being like, you are never going to be an A-list character. You are never going to be an Avenger, a hero, a person who is striving for that redemption. You can never truly find your redemption. And it has one of my favorite moments in all of comic books. It's something I specifically wanted to talk about when coming up with this video. There's a couple of panels where after like a battle Moon Knight has with some people and Spider-Man shows up, he begins to question Peter, like, what makes you and me so different? What makes you higher and more morally correct than me? And Peter's like, ethics, a code. I have honor, pretty much is what he is saying in there. And I love this panel. It's just Moon Knight just like, I'm not having this conversation. He's flying away and he's like, yeah, how's that working out for you? And as he's doing that, behind Spider-Man in this scene is the billboard with Norman Osborn's Avengers. And you're just like, that. There's something really powerful about that for a few reasons. For me, one of the reasons is this is them saying Peter not killing Norman made this happen, that now the villains are essentially the heroes of the universe. And it's also like, Moon Knight would never have this problem. There's like so many different layers to that, where it's just like saying, maybe Moon Knight doesn't have the ethics or the moral code of a Spider-Man. But look at what happened when Spider-Man had those moral codes. Look at what happened when Spider-Man had those ethics. These bad things have happened. But how often can you say, well, Moon Knight doesn't have a villain coming back regularly because he killed them? You get a lot of that too. I think that's it's just such a powerful moment. It's something I always think about when I tell people, like, Moon Knight is a character I admire. It's just because there's no bullshit with him. I mean, there's obviously like the bullshit, like, in the mind, everything's crazy, Egypt and gods and stuff. But it's like, he'll tell you what he wants to say. If he has something on his mind and he's like, you think you're better than me? Look at the world around us and tell me you're better than me. If you think I can't do this, look at what happened with the Sentry. Essentially, he is saying that throughout the entirety of this book to not only the reader, but the characters in the universe at large. And that's so powerful and so unique. I absolutely adore it. It's such a great idea for this redemption of the Moon Knight character, that this is what he's trying to do. We also have to talk about the return of Bushmen, because that is a big factor in this book too. So in the last run, when Houston took over, he had Moon Knight kill Bushman by cutting off his face. Well, now in this world, the villains are getting scared. We see that Moon Knight has taken down Ulysses Slug, and now there's some other villains in this world that are like, this guy is either going to kill us, but if he doesn't, we need somebody who's going to be able to fight back and essentially do the right thing by destroying him. And who's the only person that could do that? Bushman. So we get the Hood, we get Scarecrow, these characters that resurrect Bushman and bring back the ultimate Moon Knight villain to take down this newly heroic Moon Knight. And I think that is just such a cool idea. Something very fun. And it also goes into this idea too, that in this book, the idea that Mark killed Bushman is still something that haunts him. It's still this idea that goes in his head, like, that is the moment I think I lost, where I completely gave in to Khonshu and I lost a part of myself because of that, and I'm now striving to show I'm never going to be that again. And this arc culminates in this brilliant idea of the two of them fighting, these two people that were affected the most by Khonshu, essentially. The man who became Khonshu and the man who Khonshu killed, leading to them to have a fight in a warehouse that ends with Mark literally on the brink of cutting off his face again and killing him, and you seeing the fear, the genuine fear in the face of Bushman, knowing that he could die again, he could lose his face again, that Moon Knight would kill him again, and that essentially breaks him the way that Khonshu broke Mark. This is essentially the last time Bushman will ever be perceived as a genuine threat for the character. And I think that is very powerful, because it brings it all back full circle. You know, Bushman essentially created Moon Knight. Now Moon Knight, who is trying to redeem himself, is at the end of his line with the man who made him, and he surrenders. He doesn't kill him again. Instead, he walks away, letting the police and Spider-Man see that he's changed, when everybody is waiting for him to snap and become the thing that they know him to be. But he doesn't. He proves them all wrong. That is such a cool, interesting moment. It's so bloody fun, so intense, and gut-wrenchingly painful. You're just like, he did it. He has proven to the world that he is not the thing they all think he is, and there's something really unique about that. It is such a powerful book with a lot of twists and turns. A lot of characters in the Marvel Universe make their appearances in here. Like I said, there's references to the Dark Avengers, to other Avengers, to Spider-Man, to characters that aren't just connected to them, but a lot of interesting villains are in here too. It shows this idea that Khonshu is a thing that has hindered Mark Spector since his conception, and is probably one of the reasons he never was a mainstay Avenger for the longest time. Sure, he was on the West Coast Avengers, but that was before we made him this character who was tormented by his own existence. It is pretty much showing that you can change in the Marvel Universe, that you have room to grow. And we could probably do another video where I talk about, like, did Moon Knight really change after this, and did he lose a part of himself after like other people took over? Maybe. But I think if you were ever to tell a concise story, and I've talked about this in other videos where I did my I did my 4-season pitch for a Moon Knight series. I said, season 1, you start with like the golden age stuff of the 80s. Season 2, you move to like your Chuck Houston stuff where it's dark and the man's losing his mind. Season 3, you do all the stuff in the head like Lemire did. Your final season is the redemption of Mark Spector. And that's what this book is. This is taking all the crazy shenanigans that he's gotten up to, and you are putting it into something that is cohesive and showing that a man like this can evolve and change. I think that is brilliant. I like the way it flows. I like the way it works. I like seeing Mark doesn't need to have Khonshu in his head to survive. I like the idea that this is the start of a Moon Knight that could be a part of the larger Marvel Universe. And in subsequent issues, he does. This leads into his stuff with Secret Avengers, which is very hit or miss for me, but I like the idea that even Steve Rogers can look at this. If Steve Rogers didn't know anything about Moon Knight and he just read this book, he would pick it up and he'd be like, this guy is obviously striving for change. I think he could be an Avenger. And that's what happens. I think this book is brilliant. It is a masterpiece when it comes to creating a different type of Moon Knight than what we're used to. It is showing you could be a hero when you have been this vigilante for so long. It's a great introduction to the character trying to be something he wasn't before. And if you want to see, as like a writer or a creator of any kind, and you're like, I want to see what a good redemption arc looks like. This is a great example because it shows you the opposing forces of both the world around him and the man himself struggling to break free of this thing that he is consistently being called in the Marvel Universe. I think that's brilliant. It's very creative. It's very entertaining. I don't know how hard it is to pick up these collections anymore. This one I did pick up in I think 2011, I think is when I picked this up. So I've had this for about 10 years. It's 5 issues. If you can find it in this collection, I recommend reading it. I do believe you can pick it up on the Marvel Universe app and that kind of stuff and everything. It's worth your time. It's one that I think gets overlooked because it's not like you're the, oh my god, and then Chuck had him cut off Bushman's face or something, we entered into his mind and he's in a hospital and he's fighting these Egyptian gods and he's not in a white limo and he's driving down the streets and all this crazy stuff. He's not fighting werewolves or anything. It's Moon Knight fighting the Marvel Universe because they all think he can't become the hero. But he proves them all wrong. And that is the most Moon Knight thing I've ever seen. And that's why it's not only one of my favorite Moon Knight stories of all time, I think it's the most underrated Moon Knight story just because it's not like the other ones you've read. It's going in a different direction to show you that maybe being more mainstream could help the character, but ultimately, he is better than what the Marvel Universe thinks he is, and I think you guys would enjoy that aspect of the book too. So, Vengeance of the Moon Knight, Shock and Awe, Volume 1 of that run, the first 5 issues, is the most underrated Moon Knight story ever told. Now, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. And of course, we will be back talking more Moon Knight. Now, I want to ask you guys a question before I end things here. I have a couple videos idea for Moon Knight that I would like to run by you guys. So in the comments below, please leave if you would rather see first. I'm going to do both, but I want to know which one would you rather see first? The villains of Moon Knight or the supporting characters of Moon Knight? Which one would you like me to do a video on where we're talking about this leading into the Moon Knight series? I'd love to know what you think. Villains or supporting characters, which one would you watch first and have me explain to you in a different way? So, if you guys are interested in seeing me in other places, you can check me out on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, and all that good stuff. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. Have fun, stay safe, good luck.